Hey, my name is Mason and welcome to Wings of the Prairies here at the Western Development Museum. You're probably wondering what aircraft I'm standing behind. This aircraft is actually an Avro Anson.
The Anson was built upon the design of Avro's civilian counterpart, the Model 652. A relatively sleek-looking design, the Anson actually utilized older methods of construction, such as fabric stretched around the tubular frame of the fuselage, which if you look closely, you can actually see. Another older method of construction was the use of wood, a combination of spruce and plywood. The wings are composed almost entirely of wood and fabric. By tapping the surface of the wing, you will create the sound of a drum. Looking closely enough at the Anson, you can even see the stitching on the wings, where the fabric was placed. These construction methods allowed for the easy maintenance during operations. When introduced in 1936, the Anson was the first aircraft in Royal Air Force service to feature a retractable landing gear that increased performance. To retract and extend the landing gear, the crew had to rotate a handle over 100 times. The Anson was originally built to an RAF specification for a coastal patrol bomber, and had it not been for the Second World War, the aircraft would have likely seen a relatively modest career. When war broke out in 1939, the aircraft quickly became busy with combat missions. In 1940, Ansons played a role in the Dunkirk evacuation. One even managed to shoot down two Luftwaffe Bf-109s and damage a third. By the end of 1940, however, the writing was on the wall, and the Anson was deemed inadequate for combat by the RAF. The Anson did find continued use right here in Canada with the Commonwealth Air Training Plan, and many served faithfully in the role of training aircrew. This particular Anson actually has a connection to the prairies, as it was allocated to training aircrew in Regina during the war. For the role of training aircrew, the Anson, along with all other trainers, had bright yellow paint to help locate potential crashes. This particular model retains some of the darker camouflage colors, but the yellow paint is especially visible from underneath.
One feature you'll notice on this Anson here is the turret, which some trainer aircraft actually were trained in the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. The turret was armed with one Vickers K machine gun, which had an insanely high rate of fire due to enemy aircraft flying at high speeds. So you had a short window of opportunity to actually fire on the aircraft.
The cowlings actually have a reduced diameter as well, giving the crew better visibility around the wing areas. Canadian versions were equipped with different engines, and the Mark V, built right here in Canada, featured even more wood with a plywood fuselage. This particular Anson is equipped first and foremost as a bomber. As you can see here in the nose, that there's actually space for a man. The bombardier would lay flat in the nose, with a special sight, would aim the bombs on board the aircraft onto the target. The Anson actually ended up being a stellar platform to teach bomber crews of all varieties, especially bombardiers, wireless operators, gunners, and navigators. The Anson could also carry a maximum capacity of 360 pounds of bombs, a minute amount by the standards of 1945, but in 1939 it was deemed to be a practical bomb load for an aircraft of the Anson's class. After the war was over, some Ansons did manage to find use in the military and civilian markets. However, for most, the future looked bleak. The Canadian government wanted aircraft of all sorts gone, and the Anson was one of the first types to be deemed surplus by the government. Many were sold for steep discounts as low as $50 to farmers and scrap dealers, who viewed the metal components and tires as worth their weight in gold. Many surplus aircraft, once sold, would have their wings cut off and simply dragged to the property of their new owners, who would repurpose the aircraft for various uses, such as chicken coops, play areas for children, and reusing certain components to make or repair farm equipment. Some people in Saskatchewan even allegedly made them into different vehicles, such as snowplanes. Today, most of the restored Ansons you see in museums are built from these farm Ansons, including the one here at the Western Development Museum. Even today, the Anson can be found in the fields of Saskatchewan, and perhaps soon we just might discover one ourselves.